So we're with Nate, and we're going to try forging. Nate, have you done much forging?
Very, very little. I've made one leaf, and it wasn't very good. That's the entirety of my forging.
So, to kind of restart his forging experience, we're doing a massive throwback to the very first forge that Joseph and I ever built, which was literally made out of random bricks formed into a box filled with charcoal briquettes, and then we used a really, really simple anvil, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment. So let's get started and make a super primitive forge, do a throwback, and introduce Nate to some forging. Link in the description below. He runs a channel called Nate from the Internet. The forge setup that we've got right here is a replica of the first one we used.
And these are just ordinary charcoal briquettes. Like, there is nothing fancy about it. It is not even lump charcoal. This is what you use on the 4th of July.
You know, since I'm holding the camera, I get to trash talk about how if I were there, boy, I'd start that fire so fast. I don't know what's wrong with you guys, honestly. And no, I will not put down this camera and try.
So don't try to make...
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Trash talking is a lot easier when you don't have to do anything.
I guess that's what the Internet's for. Whoa! Yes! Success!
And of course,
Lord of the Flame!
as the cameraman, I've twitched the camera, and now there's this like jerk on the footage. Oh, that's
I would have done so much better if I was holding the camera.
That is Mark's superpower.
He doesn't twitch. He doesn't.
Things will explode, and he's just like...
Wow.
and then he'll be like, shrapnel stabbed me in the eye, just so you guys know. As soon as I stop rolling, I'm going to want some medical attention. Beep. Okay.
That is a superpower.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's great. In about an hour, these pavers are going to shatter, but we are going to have a lot of fun before then.
The pavers do shatter. Do you know what doesn't shatter? The memories. This project is a massive throwback Thursday to one of the projects that is the cultural foundation of the Good and Basic channel. When I was about 18 years old, I had a chance to try forging for the first time at a friend's house, and I caught the bug hard. The act of smushing iron into a desired shape with a hammer and anvil and the problem solving and thinking that went into it were just awesome, as was the idea that I could be one of those smiths that makes knives and swords and all kinds of other cool things. So I decided I had to try it at home. There were a couple of barriers to this. First of all, I didn't have a forge or an anvil or much in the way of training. However, my mother did give me dispensation to try putting together a forge after I showed her some rudimentary designs on a piece of paper and explained what it was I was trying to do. I then invited my partner in crime and best friend Joseph to come and try forging with an extremely primitive setup, and to both of our great surprise, it worked. Like, not just a little bit, it actually functioned properly. We literally used a galvanized pipe and an air compressor the first time we did this. We're gonna upgrade this part. Poisonous fumes sold separately. Actually, that's not true. The poisonous fumes are sold right with the galvanized pipe.
Metal fume fever
Oh.
from breathing zinc.
Here's your bar. If you wouldn't mind putting that
Pre-sculpted.
pre-leafed.
That was easy.
We're just going to pull that out, let you hammer on it a bit for, that's your,
Just like,
that's the,
ding, one hit leaf. Wow! Seems like a good handle.
right into the coals.
Nice.
Oh, it is orange. Things are happening.
Make it pointy.
Make it pointy?
Yep, make it pointy. Yep.
Got rid of that pesky leaf-shaped bit.
Self-solving problem.
Yep. So that's the end of the first heat.
It is officially pointier than it was 5 minutes ago,
Yes, that's awesome.
So forge. Much blacksmith.
so not idly do the leaves of Lorien fall. I first got into blacksmithing when I was about 16 or 17 years old. I was volunteering at a museum in Salt Lake City called This Is the Place Heritage Park. And This Is the Place Heritage Park is a live history museum. So it's laid out
like a mid-1800s village in Salt Lake City with homes and with shops. There was a bank, there was a woodworker shop, and so on. And there was also a blacksmith shop, and that is where I worked, next to a coke fire burning at 2,000 to 2,400 degrees. I pumped the bellows, I smacked pieces of metal, stoked the fire, handled the tongs and hammer and other tools, practiced blacksmithing, and also taught museum guests. And I did that one afternoon a week over the summer. Now, around that same time, other Joseph was getting into blacksmithing, and he invited me over one afternoon to do some blacksmithing at his house. And you need to understand, the blacksmith shop at This Is the Place State Park is very well equipped. Now, all of it is 1800s equipment. There's nothing modern in that shop other than the electric blower on the fire. Almost every tool in that shop is the kind of thing that was available and that would have been used back in the mid-1800s, 150 years ago. In spite of that, however, the shop was incredibly well equipped. Tons of hammers, dozens of tongs, piles and piles of miscellaneous tools, all the little paraphernalia and knickknacks that you could possibly want for a blacksmithing operation. Very well equipped, very well stocked. I would say I probably never used more than about 1/20th of the equipment there, and believe me, I tried to use all the equipment that was useful for the projects that I could while I was there. So picture in your mind the contrast between that large, well-supplied, professional 1800s blacksmith shop and then showing up in Joseph Bjork's front driveway, looking down on the ground and seeing concrete pavers on the ground, holding charcoal briquettes that were going to fuel the fire, and the air supply was a pipe that had been bent into a circular shape, it had holes drilled in it, and it was being powered by a garage air compressor. And then for an anvil, we had a small, probably 1 or 2 pound chunk of cylindrical metal. And then, of course, we were using a claw hammer as our hammer and vise grips as tongs.
Nate, what are your thoughts?
Neat.
Neat. I like it. That's good. I think it's pretty neat too.
In an odd way, even though vise grips and air compressors are technically more modern than almost anything in that Living History Museum blacksmith shop that I was working in, being in Joseph Bjork's front driveway and working there still, in a way, felt more primitive than working in an 1800s era blacksmith shop. And yet, in spite of that, in spite of how hokey it was, how thrown together it was, how haphazard it was, pick whatever descriptor you want, it was essentially a very amateurish operation with tools that really should not have been used for blacksmithing. In spite of that, in spite of how thrown together it was, we still were able to have a successful afternoon blacksmithing and make objects that were both useful and, perhaps if not beautiful, not totally ugly either, at least. And we were able to have a great time, learn some things, and make meaningful progress. Rather than waiting for our circumstances or for our list of equipment to be perfect and complete, we just started where we were and were able to make some pretty good progress. What it actually reminded me of, though, was a book that I read when I was much younger called Carry On, Mr. Bowditch, which is also set in pre-modern America in the 1700s. It's about a young man named Nathaniel Bowditch who is very bright, but unfortunately, due to a variety of circumstances, is unable to go to school and study. And instead, he's compelled to go into the trades in order to support himself and his family. And as he works in the trades, he turns himself into an autodidact. He teaches himself Latin, he teaches himself Greek, he teaches himself mathematics in order to better accomplish his professional work as a ship navigator. He also begins teaching those around him, those men who live and work before the mast on his ship, who are essentially just hired labor and are not expected to be intelligent or to make decisions. He begins to teach them how to navigate, and they begin to improve their position in life as well. They begin to be taken on to other ships' crews as first mates and second mates. Nathaniel even invents a new navigational technique and is eventually awarded an honorary degree from Harvard, the school that he had longed to go to when he was younger. Much of the book is set on the sailing ships of that era, and one of the core lessons of the book, one of these core metaphors that drives Nathaniel's life, comes from that same environment, from the environment of a sailing ship. Of course, a sailing ship is powered by the wind. You run up the sails and the wind blows the ship forward. The breeze carries the ship. Of course, there are also times sailing when the wind stops blowing, and that is called being becalmed. The seas are calm, the winds are calm, you can go nowhere. When that occurs, however, you are not fully without options. You can do what is called sailing by ash breeze, and what that means is that you put out rowboats in front of your sailing ship, attach tow ropes, and then using the oars, which are made of ash wood, you row the rowboats and tow the ship forward. hence sailing by ash breeze. Rather than being powered by the wind, you are being powered by the breeze that you create yourself through sweat and through work by pulling those ash oars and towing the ship forward. And of course, it's slower and laborious, but it is a way that you can move forward. Towards the beginning of the book, when bright young Nathaniel begins to miss out on life's opportunities, he realizes, and others say to him, that he has been becalmed, that the ship of his life has been caught in a spell where there are no winds to drive him forward. And for Nathaniel, one of the key driving forces in his life, one of the key principles that he will build his life around, is the principle of sailing by ash breeze, of saying, when I am becalmed, when circumstances are not ideal, or when I find that I lack what I want in order to accomplish my goals, I will do what I can with what I have. When the breeze ceases to blow, I will sail by ash breeze. And it's that sailing by ash breeze that does carry him through life.
What this paver block forge represents to me personally might sound just a little bit campy, but it's the idea that if you have a wild, outlandish dream that seems inaccessible and far away, it might not be. There might be a low-tech, low-budget workaround that could get you very close to where you want to be a lot sooner than you think. It requires a fair amount of lateral thinking, and that requires seeing things for what they can be and being very clear about what your goals are. What is the good you are trying to achieve? That kind of lateral exploration in both means and values is something that is very core to what Good and Basic represents. So if exploration, primitive stuff, and value theory are things that you enjoy, stick around. We'd love to have you. And hit that bell icon so you don't miss a video. So the first anvil we ever used was a piece of bar like this, mounted into a log straight down. So we had a piece of 4x4 lumber. I drilled a hole in it. We stuck this down. Your anvil does not need to be huge. So we were forging on a space just a little bit bigger than this, and that works. It's looking nice.
So leaf,
So leaf.
much plant.
Much plant. That actually looks really awesome.
Berry tree.
Several trees.
The veining didn't come in super great, but
No, it did
the
not.
leaf is leaf shaped. I mean, I can tell what that is. You made a leaf.
I sort of made a leaf.
You sort of made a leaf?
No.
It's a sword leaf.
No.
It is discernibly a leaf.
No.
It is discernible.
I made something that is leaf shaped in profile.
Awesome. And it's made out of iron.
It is made out of iron. Look at that. Iron leaf. Where's the camera? There we
I
go.
would say it took you what, like 45-ish minutes?
45-ish
By the way, that's,
minutes.
That's not a dig,
It's not
right?
bad.
That's just saying that, you know, like you can do this in 45 minutes. That's actually not very much
There you
time.
go. And someone who's really good at it would do this in like what, 4
4 heats?
minutes,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't
Something
know.
like that, yeah.
But this is fun.
Yeah, you liked it?
Yeah, you know, it really is like, this is beginner. This is just a piece of, like a pair of pliers, not high quality steel. You were saying the Harbor Freight anvil,
Yeah, super cheap.
charcoal, and a little blower as the furnace, as the forge, and yeah, it works.
Although this primitive forge is near and dear to my heart, we did upgrade to a gas forge the next day when we introduced Nate to a little bit more of blacksmithing. We forged his first ever knife blank and also a fork to do something a little bit more technical. You made a fork. Toque. You made a toque.
Stick a fork in it, it's done. Stick it in a thing, it's done.
Yeah! We need steak. That's what that says. That's
But
coming up.
as a beginner, this is fun. I did do on T-Core, I did do a leaf one time. I think this one might be a little better, but that was years ago, so I don't even really think I can call that practice. It's just,
A reset.
yeah, it's level 0 a second time.
That's awesome. Okay, let's take this to Dragon Warrior Master and call it awesome. Until next time, this has been Good and Basic with Nate from the internet, and and have a great day.
You made a fork, I made a fork, we both made forks. I think I have mine somewhere.
Do you really?
I think so.
I think I might have mine sitting in the
think
bin
I
too.
might have mine.
Made forks, made chisels, made for use in blacksmithing.
Do I still have the chisel?
I made a
might
bunch of
still have
leaves.
it.